properly stating your value within 30 seconds will have clients begging for more. You can revolutionize how you gain access to new clients by simply learning what we are about to share.
This is The Rare Advisor, proud to be a part of the Advisor Advancement Network and home of a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. Your host is Mike Walters, CEO of USA Financial. He is an investment advisor representative of, and securities are offered through USA Financial Securities, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
Hey everybody, welcome again to The Rare Advisor. I've asked Steve Phillips, friend and colleague, to join me once again. We have spoken in the past about creating professional contrast, and today I'd like Steve to expand a little bit on the thought and some of the coaching tools and techniques they're using around the value proposition and how you actually position that and can do so very uniquely in the financial services space as a financial advisor in ways that are far superior to what many people in many other industries are able to do in terms of a value prop. So with that being said, Steve, welcome. Thanks for being here again.
Mike, always good to be with you, man. And I'll have to say, I had a birthday not long ago, and here's the picture again. And while you continue to look the same, I look even more different now after another birthday. So I always love to start with that. So
we're getting up there, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's. I'm sure that wisdom, the age, whatever the key phrases are now. When you get
better with age, right? It's like a good right. Line.
Yeah, something like that. So, yeah, this is. It's always good to be with you, and this is a great conversation and something that, we talk about a lot in consulting. And the fundamentals that you and I talk about every time we get together in one of these still apply. The words matter, and let's create professional contrast. And what we realized, like with a lot of the things we do, is we started to, again, talk to the end user about what do you hear. This was really fascinating. And the whole idea of the old adage, what's your elevator speech, your 30-second pitch, or which led advisors really to not think about how they were describing themselves and really not even aware of how it was received by people they were talking to. And so we kind of dived into this. And it's funny, it's not really funny. I always had this joke, the second fastest way to clear a party is to yell fire. The first fastest way is to say, hey, I'm a financial advisor. Yeah. And anyway, so some people think that's funny. My dad laughed. Your dad probably would have laughed too, but.
Well, when you talk about elevator speech, when I first got in the industry in the late 80s, we were coaching guys because they would get into the elevator and someone would ask them, what do you do for a living? And their answer would be, I'm a general agent. Yeah, I mean, right. If you think something's worse than financial advisor, it would be referring to yourself as a general agent.
That's really good. I love it. And you know what? It's the old stories. And then we think of the evolution of the industry and advisors. So here's a foundation in consulting and coaching. And what's really interesting, Mike, and you and I had this conversation, is, of course, we spend time talking to advisors about how best to communicate to prospects and indeed to their best clients. But this is something that we know that USA does very well, communicating to its own clients, our advisors. And so when we talk about somebody asks you, what do you do? Well, originally we taught it in a 5-step process, and that's what, who, want, how, process. What do you do? Who do you do it for? What is it they want? How do you do that? And have you named your process? Well, when anybody asks what you do.
By the way, that's really worth writing down, everybody. Those 5 things. Sure. Why don't you say those one more time and let everybody write it?
What, who, want, how, process.
Thank you.
So when we talk about, hey, you get asked, what is it that you do? What if we could actually talk about who we do it for first? And what is it they actually want? And here's something that we found. I think it's rare. This is a rare opportunity for you as advisors, for us in this space, to be able to position. So we can actually take number 1, the what, and move it to position number 3 before we ever have to disclose it. Right. While sharing with a prospect or a client who we do what we do for and what it is they actually want. So instead of saying, hey, Thanks for asking, Mike. What do I do? Well, I'm a financial advisor and I work primarily here. And this is what, all of which are important. What if we said, Mike, thanks for asking. We work primarily with successful families, entrepreneurial professionals, top of field type people. And while we do so many things in our business and at our firm, the last couple of years, we found that our clients have been focused on legacy and succession issues. And many have actually been talking about achieving a work optional lifestyle. We're a financial firm. We're the Phillips agency. And so what we did was we took all of these concerns, recognizing what our clients want, and we developed and refined a process that took all those pieces and put them in place. And we call it the Horizon formula. Now, that's a short, that probably took me 35 seconds. And what's really interesting, and Mike, I shared with you before we came on air, we've actually had a couple of advisors, one specifically who was like, oh my gosh, this actually happened to me on an airplane, truly on an airplane. A woman sitting next to me said, what do you do? And I was thinking, I've got to do what I practice now. And he led off with, here's who we serve. And here's what we know they want. And he said, the woman interrupted her and said, wait a minute, really? That's fascinating. Are you in financial services of some kind? So it's a really interesting, again, what it is you do is important, but not the first position. If you could identify who it is you do it for and what it is they want. And here are a couple of things that came from this, Mike. We had a lot of advisors that said, wait a minute, what if I say successful families, or I work with entrepreneurial professionals, or what if that limits the group? Well, in our consulting and our coaching, we're very big on the words matter. So we lead off with the word primarily for. So I say, well, we work primarily with successful families, entrepreneurial professionals, top of field type people. So the word primarily is key because of the word it's not, and that word is exclusive. That ties to other things that we heard clients say from workshops and seminars that we were attending, where our clients would say, advisors always get up in the front of the room and either explicitly say this or imply, we can do everything for everyone. And when we had opportunity to ask clients about this, they'd say, you know what? Probably not me. I don't want to be the one that sort of falls through the cracks. I know everybody's busy and everything, and if you can do everything for everyone. So the idea of kind of creating a club, Mike, where I said, successful families, top of field professionals, primarily, a couple of things happen there. I've sort of created a club and you're interested in it. And I didn't say exclusively. The other thing it creates is what we call permission marketing.
Right.
What's a successful, how do you define, I feel like we're successful, what's a successful family in your mind? And top of field professionals, what fields do you work with? So now what has happened is simply by stating right up front, who do we really define as an ideal client, leave the edges open a little bit, and what is it that they typically want among the many things that we can provide at our firm. Now, first of all, speaks directly to your question, Mike. It speaks to you, and I can talk about myself in the third position, and it's going to elicit these questions from you. So define that a little bit more. That's interesting. Successful families or top of field, and so it goes. And it takes a little bit of practice, like everything we do, because the fallback is, hey, what do you do? I'm a general agent. I'm a financial advisor. I know it's evolved, and some guys are really good at it. Well, I own my own firm or whatever it might be. But the key thing is, let me make your question really about you first, Mike, instead of about me.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. By the way, sorry about changing headsets here. Of course, the microphone, the really nice boom mic I have happens to pick up the lawn guy who decides that now's the time to come and show up and mow the lawn outside my window. So, so hopefully this sounds a little better. But yeah, the first thought, I'm sure everybody listening to this has the same first thought. When you give your little example about how you do that and how you advise people to do it, the first thing that happens is the person listening to that immediately says, "Oh, that's me." And if it's not them, well, you don't have to waste your time anymore, right? Because they're either going to respond favorably right out of the gate, or it's not going to be of any interest to them because the person you described, a successful family, an entrepreneur, a business owner, isn't them. But if it's them, the first thing that happens is they immediately perk up because they're like, "Oh, that's me." And then when you talk about legacy and work optional and so on and so forth, then the next thing that happens is they're like, oh my gosh, that's the exact same stuff I'm thinking about right now. And all of a sudden you got bam, bam, you've got them. And then that's what opens up the questions. Well, could you define that? Well, what do you mean by this? And then now it's the permission marketing just kicks into high gear.
You know what's the other thing? And that's a really good. All those are great comments, Mike, and they're true. And the other thing is, and I know, and I hope that the rare advisors that we've been participating with for months now get sort of not tired of hearing the things that we say, but get used to it. The human nature component, think of how many jobs and careers and things there are in the world. You're sitting on an airplane, or you meet somebody at a party, or whatever it is, or you're in an elevator and somebody says, hey, and I said, what do you do? It's a different, people receive things differently. They hear things differently when it starts with them. It's right. Inclusive for one thing, and frankly, it's different. Hey, how you doing, Mike? Great. There's a lot of conversations in our daily lives that are, we mean to be congenial with people that we care about and our colleagues and all, but it's just sort of a throwaway. How's it going, man? It's going great, and on you go. The same thing was, hey, what do you do? Yeah, well, I'm a financial advisor. That's great. I have a financial advisor. It right. encourages people to really want to participate because it sounds different. And that's the human nature component. And there's none among us that aren't interested if you make any conversation about me.
Yeah.
And I think that, and for those of you that haven't participated in any of these exercises with us that are interested in, one of the things that we've done now at USA Financial is we built a heck of a body of work. And so we can share with you, put you in touch with advisors. I'll put you in touch with the advisor that sat on the airplane and had the woman that he sat next to take control of the conversation and ask, you're in financial services? And so it does change the dynamic.
Yeah.
And Mike, I want to say two other things. When you said that people do go, wait a minute, that's me, or I want it to be me. I'm a successful family. I want to be a successful family. I'm a top of field guy, whatever field I might be in. And what's that work optional thing? Whatever that is, who sells that? How do I get that? Yeah. And that's where the permission marketing comes in.
Well, and also what happens is by taking this high road, you're driving a wedge between the listener, the consumer, and their existing relationship with a financial advisor, assuming they have one. Because the other thing that's going on that doesn't even necessarily get verbalized is they're immediately thinking, I've never heard my financial advisor talk this way. Why have I never heard my financial advisor talk this way? Why am I not getting this kind of value? And why is my advisor not helping me try to do the things that we're talking about right here, right now? And immediately all these question marks just start popping up in their head about their current relationship. And that's what professional contrast is, right? It's about drawing and creating a wedge between your prospect and their existing advisor relationship without ever having to throw mud. Because if you start throwing mud, you're going to be the one who loses. That never looks good on anyone, and it actually looks worse on you. The one throwing the mud is who actually gets the muddiest, as they say. And so this solves all that.
Yeah, it does. And I love the idea that you can't attack the incumbent. I don't need to. People in conversations like that come to their own conclusions, and they do realize work optional lifestyle. I don't even know what that is. So the whole idea of the professional contrast leads clients or prospects or whoever to making their own decisions. Like this is really crazy. And think about it. Those of you that have been in this business are successful and have many meaningful client relationships. When's the last time that you had a conversation with your clients about achieving a work optional lifestyle? Defining them by saying, we know who we work with. We know who. That's the other part of the conversation, Mike, that you sort of alluded to. I've named my ideal client without saying it.
Right.
I've named my ideal client. And the other human nature component is I created the club without saying exclusively. I want to have a conversation. I don't know you yet, but if you're just like, I think I am this, or would you consider working with me? I want to talk about the work optional lifestyle thing. Well, of course I would.
Right.
So all those things you said, the professional contrast is dramatic. And here's the other thing. When those people become best clients, and we have many, many examples and stories of people in those original conversations that did, it's that story that they turn around and tell.
Right.
My advisor from the very start wasn't selling me stuff. I was buying into something. It was interesting and spoke to things that I need that my financial planning gets me, work optional lifestyle and all those types of things. And that is where it's funny how all of the coaching and consulting bolt together. But this conversation oftentimes is what leads to the introductions.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Steve, to wrap this up, as I know everybody would love to hear you say this again, can you give us the elevator talk one more time to end with?
Yeah, sure. Mike, really appreciate it. Thanks for asking. Well, primarily we work with successful families in town, some entrepreneurial types, top of field professionals. And while we do so many things at our firm, we've found over the last few years, there's been a focus on family legacy and succession issues. And a big one has been people that are striving to achieve a work optional lifestyle. So again, among the many things that we can do, we're a financial services firm, Phillips and Associates. We've developed and refined a process that really takes those things that our best clients are after and puts and keeps them in place. And we call that process the Horizon Formula.
Boom.
There it is.
Perfect. So if you need this in your practice, and if you need to know how do you actually build out that process, which is what you obviously have to be able to deliver on after a conversation like that, that's what Steve and his team are all about here at USA Financial and USA Financial Protocol, to be specific, which is our coaching and consulting arm that Steve heads up. So thanks again, Steve. Thanks for everyone joining us here on Rare. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a subscription, and more importantly, reach out to Steve to help you take the next step. Thanks, everyone.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.